Ever feel like you're kind of, a puppet?
Yeah.
Just totally at the mercy of every thought and emotion that pops up.
Oh, yeah, like you're getting yanked around by all that mental chatter.
Exactly. Cravings, anxieties, all that stuff is like, who's really in control here? Well, get this, the Adhyatam Upanishad, it's like it offers this way to cut those strings, to actually become the master of your inner world.
And to help us navigate this ancient wisdom, we've got Osho's commentary.
Right. And his insights are, like, seriously spot on.
What I find really cool about this Upanishad is that it doesn't just throw out these abstract concepts. It actually gives us a practical roadmap for this inner journey. It's like a step-by-step guide.
Totally. You share some excerpts from Osho's discourse, and I gotta say, the way he uses stories and analogies, it's like genius. It really makes these ancient ideas come alive, you know what I mean?
He has a way of making it all so relatable.
Totally. It's like he's taking us by the hand and saying, come on, let's explore this together. So are you ready to dive in and discover the witness within?
Absolutely. I'm ready. Let's do this.
Okay, awesome. Let's jump in. Now, Osho kicks things off by tackling something we're all guilty of this obsession with. Seriously, think about it. My house, my car, my opinion. We're constantly slapping this label of ownership on everything.
Yeah.
Like somehow saying mine makes it more a part of us,
It's like we're trying to build up this sense of self by just accumulating more and more stuff, both material and even intangible things, too.
Oh, for sure. And to show just how ridiculous this grasping can get, Osho uses this hilarious example, countries claiming ownership of the moon. I mean, come on, what are they going to do? Build a timeshare up there?
It's a perfect illustration of how pointless it is to try and find security or a sense of self in things that are ultimately impermanent and outside our control. That highlights that futility.
It's so true. We think owning something, possessing it, makes us secure. But guess what? This whole minus thing, it doesn't stop at possessions. It even creeps into our thoughts and emotions, even our beliefs. But here's where things get really interesting. The more we expand this sense of me, the more vulnerable we become to, suffering.
Makes sense, right? Everything we cling to, whether it's a physical object or a relationship or even an idea, it's all subject to change. Nothing stays the same. And so when we wrap our identity up in all these things, their loss feels like a personal tragedy.
Yeah, it's like our whole world comes crashing down.
Yeah.
So how do we escape this trap of Mayaness? Well, the Upanishad, it actually proposes this pretty radical solution. It's about systematically negating everything we think we are.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion, We shed all those false identifications to get to the core, the heart of our being.
I love that image. And this might sound familiar. It's kind of similar to what the Western philosopher Descartes did. He used this method of doubt, right? Questioning everything to arrive at that undeniable truth, I am.
Right, I think, therefore I am. But the Adhyatam Upanishad, it takes it a step further. It even questions that I am. It sees it as a limited concept, just something the mind constructs.
Whoa, okay. So if we're not our possessions, not our thoughts or emotions, not even this limited sense of I am, then what are we? What's left?
The Upanishad points us towards the Saakshi, the witness.
Okay, so not the stuff, not even the me that thinks it owns the stuff, but something else.
Exactly. Imagine you're looking at a beautiful diamond. You appreciate its brilliance, all those facets, but you're not the diamond itself, right?
Yeah.
You're the one observing it. You're the awareness that's perceiving it. Does that make sense?
I love that. Simple, but it really clarifies things.
Yeah.
You know what? We're actually experiencing this right now. You're listening to me, hearing the ideas, maybe some background noises.
Right. And you are not those things. You're the awareness behind them, the silent observer, the witness, starting to see it.
I think so. But I got to admit, it's pretty mind-bending stuff. It makes you wonder, if this witness is always there, how come we don't experience it all the time? How do we tap into that deeper level of awareness?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Why don't we experience this witness all the time? And it all comes down to this. We get so caught up in the content of our minds, all that noise and the world outside, that we lose sight of the one who's experiencing it all.
Right. It's like we're so fixated on the movie playing on the screen that we forget we're sitting in the theater watching it.
Exactly. And the Upanishad, especially with Osho's commentary, it's like it gives us these tools, these techniques to break free from that limited perspective, to shift our attention,
Right.
from the content to the container, from the movie to the awareness that's actually watching the movie.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we actually access this witness? Give us the secret sauce.
Well, Osho, he talks about developing what he calls the double-pointed arrow of attention. Now, I know it sounds kind of complicated, but it's really a simple practice. yet super profound.
All right, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me. What's this double-pointed arrow all about?
Basically, it's about cultivating this awareness that's both outward and inward, like at the same time. So instead of just focusing all our attention on the object of our experience, whatever we're experiencing, we also become aware of ourselves as the subject, the one who's experiencing it.
So, like, instead of just hearing your voice right now, I could also be aware of myself as the listener.
Exactly. You got it. And in that space between the speaker and the listener, the object and the subject, well, that's where the witness emerges. It's like this third point of awareness that observes both the inner world and the outer world simultaneously.
Wow, this is, like, really blowing my mind. I can actually feel this shift in my awareness just talking about it. It's subtle, but it's there.
That's the beauty of these Upanishadic teachings, you know? They're not just intellectual concepts. They're meant to be lived, to be experienced directly. And with practice, this double-pointed arrow of attention, it can really help you see the witness more clearly, like in your everyday life, you know? Not just when you're sitting here talking about it.
So it's not about becoming some detached hermit meditating in a cave all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Osho, he actually says that recognizing the witness, it's like it gives us true mastery over our lives.
He does. And he tells this amazing story, this really powerful anecdote about Mahavira. He was a key figure in Jainism. And his understanding of the self, of the witness, was so deep that his body almost became like subservient to his will.
Oh, right. Like how we could fast for like ridiculously long periods without even feeling hungry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mahavira's mastery, it wasn't just about physical endurance or anything. It was about him recognizing that he was not his body, not his desires, not even his hunger. He was the witness, pure awareness that transcended all those limitations. Pretty cool, huh?
It's mind-blowing when you think about it. And it makes me realize how often I'm like totally controlled by my cravings, impulses, all that mental chatter that never seems to stop. It's like I'm a slave to my own mind.
We all feel that way sometimes, but when we connect with the witness, it's like stepping back from all that drama, all that chaos. We gain a whole new level of freedom. It's like, finally some peace.
So we're not just victims of our thoughts and feelings. We can actually choose how we respond to them. That's empowering.
Absolutely. And this is where the journey, it gets even more, well, radical. The Adhyatam Upanishad, it pushes us even further, beyond the concept of the individual soul, the Atman. It's like, okay, we've come this far, let's keep going.
Beyond the soul.
Right.
How is that even possible? I thought the soul was like the ultimate destination, the core of who we are. You know, like that's it, we've arrived.
It's a common misunderstanding for sure. But the Upanishad, it points to something even more expansive. It's like this complete merging with the ultimate reality where even the separate self, it dissolves.
Okay, having a little trouble wrapping my head around that one. Got an example to help me out?
Sure, imagine a single drop of water. It falls into the ocean. For a moment, it keeps its individual form, right? But then it merges completely, becomes one with the vastness of the sea. It's not a separate drop anymore, it's just ocean.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. So it's not about literally becoming God, but more like realizing our inherent oneness with existence.
Yeah.
Everything's connected.
That's it. You got it. And this realization, it's not like some magical overnight transformation. It's a process, a gradual shedding of those layers of me, all those stories we tell ourselves that keep us feeling separate and limited. And that's what the Upanishad calls menanash. It's that dissolution of the ego, the mind's tendency to create this false sense of self.
Sounds like a lifelong project, and probably a lot of ups and downs along the way, right? Not all sunshine and rainbows.
Oh, absolutely. Osho, he actually compares it to a game of snakes and ladders. You take a few steps forward, have these amazing moments of insight, and then, bam, you slide back down into old patterns, clinging to those my stories all over again. It's frustrating, but it's part of the process.
Ugh, tell me about it. It's like, come on, I thought I was making progress.
But you know what? Even those falls, they're part of the journey. They help us see how sticky our ego is, how easily we get pulled back into those old grooves of thinking and behaving.
It's all about developing that awareness,
Yeah.
right? Noticing when we're slipping back into old habits and then gently guiding ourselves back to the witness, back to that clarity and freedom.
Exactly. And as we do this, the mind, it starts to calm down. It gets quieter. Those waves of thoughts and emotions, they begin to settle. And we start experiencing more moments of stillness, of clarity, of peace.
It's like we're creating space for that true self, the witness, to shine through. But I have to ask, what's the practical application of all this? How does understanding the witness, how does that actually help me in my daily life? Because it can all feel pretty abstract at times. Can you give me some real-world examples? It's all well and good to talk about this witness idea, but how's it going to help me when I'm stuck in rush hour traffic? Or like drowning in my to-do list? How's this going to help me in those everyday situations?
Yeah, that's the real test, right? Knowing there's this deeper me is one thing, but does it actually change how I react when things get tough?
Exactly. You mentioned things like meditation and self-inquiry, even spending time in nature. Those sound great on paper, but I need something, I don't know, a bit more practical, a bit more concrete, something I can use like right now.
Okay, sure. Let's unpack those a bit because they're not as vague as they might sound at first. Take meditation, for instance. It's not about emptying your mind completely, like some people think. It's more about training our attention, learning to observe our thoughts and feelings, but without judging them.
Like those clouds passing by. We talked about that before. So instead of getting all caught up in every little thought, I'm learning to create space,
Yeah,
right, between the thought and me.
you got it. And as you practice this, you start to notice this gap, the separation between the thought itself and the observer, the witness. It's not that the thoughts just disappear, they're still there, but they lose their power over you.
So it's not about suppressing thoughts, but more like, well, acknowledging them without letting them run the show.
Exactly. That space, that distance you create, that's where the witness hangs out. Now, self-inquiry can feel a bit more intense maybe, but it's incredibly powerful. It's about asking those deep questions, like, who am I really? What is this true self all about?
Whoa, those are big questions. What if I don't have any good answers?
It's not about coming up with some perfect intellectual answer. It's more about using those questions to cut through all the layers of conditioning, all those stories we tell ourselves about who we are. Those my stories, the ones we cling to. My beliefs are this, my fears are that.
So basically, questioning everything I thought I knew about myself, all those assumptions I've built my identity on.
Exactly. And as you do that, you might realize those stories, they're not the whole truth. They're just mental constructs.
Yeah.
And by stripping them away, we get closer and closer to the essence, to the witness.
Okay, starting to see the picture here. But what about nature? How does spending time in nature connect to all this?
Nature has this amazing way of reminding us that we're part of something much, much bigger than ourselves. When we're out in nature, it's easier to tap into this sense of vastness, this interconnectedness, and that helps dissolve that illusion of separation we've been talking about.
Yeah, like when you're looking up at the stars or listening to the ocean, you feel a sense of awe, right? Wonder. It puts everything into perspective. Your problems just seem to melt away.
Right. And that feeling, that connection to something larger, it can help break down the walls of the ego. And when those walls crumble, the witness can shine through even brighter.
So whether it's through meditation, self-inquiry, or even just being out in nature, all these practices are pointing us towards the same goal, recognizing the witness, our true self. And as we do that, we experience more and more freedom.
That's the idea. Freedom from all those reactive patterns, those limiting beliefs, that mental chatter that never seems to end. We become more present, more compassionate, and more aligned with our true purpose.
This has been, wow, a real eye-opener. This deep dive into the Adhyatam Upanishad, it's given me so much to think about and, well, to actually put into practice in my life.
It's been my pleasure exploring all this with you. Remember, the journey to discovering the witness, it's ongoing. But even little glimpses of this true self, they can bring incredible peace and a sense of connection to, well, something much greater than ourselves.
Yeah, beautifully said. And to everyone listening, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep asking those big questions, and try out the practices we've talked about. It's definitely worth the effort. So until next time, keep diving deep.